Hey, how's everybody doing today? This is Deaddrop, and I wanted to talk about the Nioh Beta that was just released on the PlayStation Store earlier this week. I've played through it twice now. I've completed the main mission twice now, and I have a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, mainly concerns about the game, because I feel like the game does have potential to be just as good as games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, which are clear influences for this game, but I do feel like there are some things that need to be addressed. Now, obviously, this is just the beta, so these could be things that are specific to the beta. They could be specifically implemented in this beta for testing purposes, or these could be things that are actually in the final product of the game. We don't know. That, after all, this is a beta test, so I'm just going to sit here and provide some of my thoughts on what I've played so far and things that I would like to see changed. And there's really two main things, right? So the first one, this is the biggest one, is the offering slash familiarity slash durability, triangle. So in the first beta, if you guys didn't play it, there was durability. There was a durability mechanic for all the weapons, and your durability on your weapons would degrade really, really fast. Like maybe after killing 6 or 7 enemies, you would basically have to throw your weapon away and find a new one and have to use that. Now in this beta, they completely removed that, and I'm actually pretty happy about that because that was my main concern with the first beta. I didn't necessarily enjoy having to throw my weapons away after, 6 or 7 encounters because the durability would just go down so quickly. But with that being said, the more that I played this second beta and the more that I played the game without the durability system in it, I realized that it's actually pretty important due to other systems that are in the game, specifically offering. So right now, when you go to a shrine, you can offer up weapons that you find, right? You can offer up these weapons for Amrita, and for each weapon, at 0 familiarity, you get something like 50 Amrita. Now, very quickly, I want to talk about what familiarity is in case you're not familiar with it. Basically, when you pick up a weapon and you go to your inventory, at the very top, you'll see it says familiarity, and it'll say 0 out of another number. It'll say 400, 700, or 900. 900 is the highest that I've seen so far in the beta. Once that bar is filled, when you go to offer up that weapon at a shrine, you will get more Amrita. However, you only get like 300 Amrita for a max familiarity weapon, and it's really not worth it when you're like level 10, because at that point you need like 5,000 or 6,000 Amrita to get one level, and 300 or 400 Amrita really isn't too much of that. So there really isn't an incentive for you to actually offer your weapons up because the gains on them are too small, and unfortunately a lot of the mobs, all they drop are weapons. So I would like to see some kind of marriage between offering familiarity and durability to exist, or to be further emphasized in the games, in the way that the game works, right? So for example, I think maybe reintroducing weapon durability but toning it down from the first beta would actually make offering items offering weapons be an actual decision that you have to make, an actually meaningful decision that you have to make, right? Because that way, let's say for example you're using a katana and that's your best weapon, or that's your favorite weapon to use, and now all of a sudden it breaks. Well, I have max familiarity with it, but I have other weapons in my inventory that I can use in the meantime, but I can go offer this weapon up and get more Amrita for using this weapon, or for, speccing into that specific stat. Let's say you spec into body, I'll get more Amrita, or maybe I'll get 5 elixirs or something like that, right? Make it so that there's a reason for me to actually switch and pick up other weapons and actually use them to increase familiarity, and therefore when I go to offer them up, I will get more Amrita or another resource back, and it's actually, it actually makes sense at that point, because as it stands right now, there's no incentive for me to switch weapons because I have to specifically spec into one stat that scales the best with that specific weapon class that I've chosen, right? So if I want to use katanas, I have to spec into, I think it's body. If I want to use axes, I have to spec into strength. Now, if you want me to switch weapons around, if you want me to say use a katana and then use an axe because I offered up the katana, my stats for strength are not going to be the same that they were for the katana, so therefore now I'm at an even greater disadvantage in damage output, despite me being, let's say, like level 30 or something like that, because I just haven't spec'd into any other stat. So maybe not even necessarily offering up resources for offering Amrita, but maybe offering up just a level. If you've reached, if the weapon is high enough in terms of damage, or in terms of scaling, or in terms of familiarity, offering a level, or maybe even in terms of rarity, right? Offering a level for the for you offering up that weapon to the gods. That way you could start speccing into other stats, and when you do have to change weapons, you're not taking as big of a hit to your damage output as you would be if, let's say, the game remained in its current state. So that's pretty much my biggest complaint so far. I would like to see I would like to see that trio of systems ironed out more and maybe tied more together, because as it stands right now, they're pretty loosely linked. Durability is not even in the game, but offering and familiarity are kind of loosely linked, and I just don't think it's enough to really warrant having them in the game, right? And now my second concern with the game are just some combat issues. So I've been watching other people stream the game as well to see what they've been saying about it, and I have noticed that some people have been complaining about input bugs. I don't necessarily know if they're in the game because I've never really experienced one so far. I've played the beta for probably about 6 hours now. I've never experienced one. I don't know if they're actually suffering from input bugs. I don't know if it's their controller. I don't know if they're just blaming the game because they died. I don't know what it is. But if they do exist, and from all sources it seems like they do, obviously that's something that needs to be fixed, right? That goes without saying. Another thing that I think needs to be addressed are the archers in this game. There's specifically one archer that drilled this problem home for me. There's an archer sitting right in front of the boat on the first mission where you fight the main boss, right? That archer, if you run behind the archer, let's say he's standing there and he readies his bow to to shoot his arrow at you. If you run behind him, the arrow will still hit you. He doesn't, his model does not turn to hit you, to look at you and shoot his arrow. He will just fire his arrow straight ahead while you're behind him, and the arrow will still hit you. And those arrows take a third of your health, especially when you're trying to just run at the boss so that you can get to the boss as quickly as possible, not take any damage, and not have to waste your elixirs to heal yourself. It becomes very, very frustrating because that doesn't logically make sense. You're in that situation, you're outplaying the computer, the AI, but the AI is just like an aimbot essentially, right? You're going to get hit unless you throw up your guard. Other than that, though, you're going to take the damage or you kill the archer, right? But killing the archer now puts you at risk because you have you could take damage from one of the other enemies that's around. So I would just like to see, I feel like that's a bug, and I think that needs to get fixed. If you're standing behind an enemy like an archer, there's no reason why you should still be getting hit. The arrow should fly straight ahead, or the archer should re-quiver the arrow and therefore pull out his sword and attack you like that. And the final thing about the combat issues that I want to talk about relate to the different weapon stances. So every weapon has 4 stances, right? There's a high stance, there's a mid stance, and there's a low stance, and then there's the scabbard stance, which is basically when you put your weapon in its scabbard. It's holstered at that point, right? Throughout the beta, I haven't really found any reason to use any of the different weapon stances, aside from a few specific instances against the yokai. So there's the demons, right? And basically what happens is sometimes they're standing up, and if you hit them a couple of times, you get them down to like half health. They'll fall down to like on all fours. And there it's the best choice is to use the high stance because of the verticality of the sword swings, right? And so that makes sense. But I would like to see that implemented more throughout the game, because in the beta so far, I haven't really seen any reason to switch weapon stances. I've been using the mid stance this entire time, and again, like I said, the only trade-offs that I see are damage and speed and stamina usage. So why would I ever want to use the high stance if the damage output is higher, but the attacks come out slower and I'm wasting more ki? Why would I ever want to use the low stance if my damage output is lower, but I'm using less ki? I don't really understand what other meaningful trade-offs there are. I would like to see specific enemies that maybe, let's say you have a mob of like 3 or 4 enemies. 2 of them require high stance and 2 of them require mid stance. That would be something cool. I don't know if that's going to be in the game later on, but I definitely have not run into it I haven't run into it in the beta. So hopefully in the final game, once this game is finally released, that will be seen more and more often. So that way you actually have a reason to not only use different weapon stances, but also skill into the abilities that allow you to, when you switch weapon stances, you get an increase in damage. It allows you to spec into those specific abilities instead of just specking into, things like parry and things like more damage to yokai or elemental damage, you know what I mean? So those are just some things that I would like to see. I think the game definitely is solid. I do think that it has the potential to be a really good game. It's definitely hard, so if you're not into games that are hard, then I would probably say stray away from this game. Like if you weren't a fan of Dark Souls or Bloodborne, I'd probably say stay away from the game, because I don't know, in my time playing the game so far, I do feel like it's a little bit harder than Bloodborne. The boss took me a while to beat until I figured out, you know, what I have to do, and then until I properly spec'd into the appropriate stats to beat him. But aside from that, I would say that the game, you know, it feels really good. I do like the aesthetic of the game. I like the samurai and, you know, the Japanese culture with the demons and the oni and all that stuff. I do really enjoy that. I just wish that there were a couple of system changes and a couple of combat changes, or not even necessarily changes, but I would just like to see these little things ironed out and maybe tuned to be, you know, perfect. Because as it stands right now, they're good, but I think they could be improved upon. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for next week. I'm going to be talking about the Titanfall 2 beta. I did play it a little bit over the weekend, but I didn't really get enough time to play the game to really give my opinion on it. I only played Pilot v Pilot, so this weekend when it's live again, I'm going to try out the other game modes and I'm going to see what it is, because I don't feel like I got the Titanfall 2 experience from the little amount of time that I spent playing the game. But anyways, leave a like if you liked it. Leave a dislike if you disliked the video. Let me know what you guys feel about the beta so far. Are you guys going to be picking this game up? Are you guys enjoying this game? And follow me on Twitter as well. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll talk to you guys later.